This boy here is Johnny Cash. He was born on March 15th, 2024. He was our first calf born this spring. His mom is our mid-sized Galloway Fatima, and his dad is our mini bull Morty. He is just a little tiny guy. He's all black, chondro positive. Since he was one of our first ones born, and we still have him, he's been to a lot of school field trips with us. He's been around a lot of people. We just barely had our fall festival where we had about 1,000 people come, and he got to be loved on and looked at. He's just as sweet as can be. So his mom is a full Galloway, not belted. She's all black, just like him. His dad is he's 50% White Park, British White Park, and 50% Galloway. So that makes Johnny 75% Galloway, 25% British White. He's halter trained and just the sweetest little love ever, with the cutest ears. So he's super friendly. He's been around all sorts of people, noises. He was in our county fair parade. We took him to a school carnival where they were shooting off the candy cannon next to him. Kids climb all over him. He's so friendly. So right now he is 7 months old, and he's measuring at the top line. He is 30 inches tall. Okay, so looking at Johnny, people will say, well, how tall will he get when he's grown? So like I said, 7 months old. This is our cow, Georgia. She is a half sister to him. So basically the same breed as him. Mom was a Galloway. They have the same dad, which is our British White Park bull, Morty. She is 3.5 years old. She's had 2 calves of her own already. She stands at her top line to 40 inches. If you see my husband there, he is 6'1", so fully mature. She's not even up to his waist all the way. I think that Johnny is built almost identical to Georgia. And I think if you were asking me to predict how tall he will be, I think that you would see him mature out to look pretty much exactly like Georgia. So just a nice small cow. He is a steer. Georgia was one of our first cows that we bought. We bought her as a calf, just freshly weaned calf. When I started in this, I thought mistakenly that you could only get a calm cow by bottle feeding. So up to that point, we had 2 bottle babies we were feeding, and we brought her home at the same time. So we had our first 3 calves all at the same time. They were all the same age. The other 2 were bottle fed, and she wasn't. And she is just as sweet as the 2 that we bottle fed. The key is spending time with them, loving them, feeding them treats, obviously. Our cows are suckers for horse apple treats. And just consistently loving on them. Just like anything, they're gonna need the consistent love and attention. This guy has already been started. He was on the fast track to gentling with all of the field trips and events that he's been to. It wouldn't take him a whole lot to stay exactly how gentle he is. But there's your comparison. Johnny at 7 months old, Georgia at coming up on 3. I get a lot of people that say, I want a Highland cow. I love Highlands. We raise Highlands as well. I probably love them equally. With Galloways, they get, I just brushed him, so he's not as curly yet, but we'll show you on Georgia. They get more of a curly forehead. So they still get a hairy forehead, a little bit different than the Highland, but more curly. You see her curls on her chin, down on her chest. So they get hairy there. They get the hair up here on their back, that starts to stand up. The other thing I get a lot of is people want the Highland for the horns. We have horned Highlands. I'm not against horned Highlands by any means, but I can tell you how much I love our polled cows for things like our petting zoos, our events, going to school field trips. We have Georgia's first daughter, Lizzie, who is half Highland, and she has horns, and she's as sweet as can be, but I don't take her on field trips because the horns can be dangerous. Even though she doesn't use them for evil, they're still there, and little kids don't always have the awareness to know to stay out of the horn's way. So if you're trying to balance horns versus polled, if you're just looking for a sweet pet, my suggestion all the way would be go polled, because it's just safer that way. Again, even nice cows with horns can be a problem if you have people who aren't used to being around the cows. The last thing I get a lot of is, I want a female. And I don't blame you, we have a lot of females as well, because we breed. If you are just looking for a pet, something to love, a companion animal, something you don't plan on breeding, I think you can never go wrong. And actually, I would suggest a steer, because obviously, I don't need to explain why you wouldn't want a bull, but why wouldn't you want a cow over a steer? Well, cows still go into heat, even if you don't have a bull, even if they're not breeding, they still go into heat. There was one day I went to load up Lucy to go to a school field trip, and she was kind of giving me a little bit of fits, and I couldn't figure out what was going on with her, but I was in a hurry, so just loaded her up in the trailer. Well, we got there, and she was just kind of in a mood the whole time. So I had to be really careful. I kind of had to watch the kids with her. I mean, she wasn't mean, but she just wasn't her sweet, loving, normal self. Brought her back home. She walked right over to the fence by the bull. So she was in heat, which is going to happen every 3 weeks with a cow during breeding season. And just like some humans, they kind of tend to be a little bit testy during their heat cycle. So if you're looking for something to just put out there, love on, again, I think a steer is absolutely the way to go. You're going to save money on a steer as well. So that's Johnny. I think he would make a perfect addition to anybody that just wants to start with mini cows, just wants them for the pet of them, and has just always wanted one of these tiny ones to love on, because he is the full and complete package. He will be a steer. He'll be priced as a steer, which will be awesome for you. He's tiny, he's hairy, he has no horns, and he is about as halter broke as you can possibly have. This kid has been loved on and is going to be super, super sweet for his new family as well. Okay, this is Morty. He is Johnny's dad. You can see height-wise how he falls compared to Mike. He's a tiny bit taller than Georgia. This is Georgia's dad as well. Tiny bit taller than Georgia. Maybe not at his back hips, but he's got his bull hump. So that makes a little bit of a difference, but he's got the curly Galloway in his neck and in his head, like Georgia and Johnny. Gentle as can be. He's literally our sweetest cow. Bull, definitely sweetest bull, but even with the cows, he's right up there.